The annals of Thutmose III detail an event with chilling precision. Scribes wrote of fiery discs descending from the clouds. The discs measured roughly 45 meters across. They made no sound. They hovered above the desert for several days. The king ordered his army to watch them constantly. The objects eventually ascended higher into the atmosphere. The scribes documented this as a factual military encounter. They treated the discs as physical realities. They recorded the date. They recorded the time. They recorded the exact position of the royal army. Why would a royal scribe invent a story about silent flying objects?
Fast forward to the year 332 BC. Alexander the Great was besieging the city of Tyre. His army was struggling to breach the massive stone walls. A historian of the era recorded a sudden appearance in the sky. 3 flying shields descended from the upper atmosphere. The largest shield led the triangular formation. The other 2 followed closely behind in perfect synchronization. The lead shield fired a beam of light at the city walls. The stone crumbled into dust instantly. Alexander's army poured through the breach. The flying shields then vanished into the clouds. Military commanders documented this event as a literal intervention. They completely avoided mystical language. They described metallic objects performing tactical military maneuvers.
The Roman Empire kept meticulous records of unusual events. Pliny the Elder documented multiple aerial anomalies in 76 AD. He wrote his encyclopedia, Natural History, with strict attention to physical facts. Pliny described a spark falling from a star. The spark grew as it descended toward the earth. It expanded to the exact size of the moon. It then retreated back into the sky and transformed into a bright torch. In 214 BC, at Hadria, an altar appeared in the sky alongside phantom men in white robes. Roman historians recorded these events alongside mundane crop yields and tax collections. They categorized them as physical weather phenomena. They lacked the vocabulary for spacecraft. They used the words they had available. They called them flying shields. They called them glowing spears. They called them phantom ships. Move forward to April 14, 1561. The residents of Nuremberg awoke to a terrifying sight. The sun rose, the sky filled with strange geometric shapes, cylinders and crosses and globes engaged in a massive aerial battle. Hundreds of townspeople watched the event for an entire hour. The objects flew erratically across the horizon. Several of them crashed to the ground and burned outside the city walls. Hans Glaser was a woodcut artist living in the city. He carved a highly detailed depiction of the battle. He printed it as a broadsheet news article for the public. He included the specific date and the exact duration of the event. Glaser described a large black spear dominating the sky. He warned the readers to take the event seriously. The local government filed the broadsheet in their official town archives. Astrophysicist Jacques Vallée spent decades analyzing these historical accounts. He compiled a database of over 500 pre-industrial sightings. He published his findings in a landmark study. Vallée discovered a consistent pattern across centuries of human history. The physical shape of the objects remained identical. The flight characteristics rarely varied from case to case. The silence of the crafts was a universal detail across all cultures. Spanish researcher Chris Orbeck joined Vallée to expand the search globally. Orbeck founded the Magonia Exchange Project. He digitized thousands of newspaper clippings from the 19th century. He found identical descriptions of silent metallic discs. The reports came from farmers in Kansas. They came from monks in medieval France. The witnesses shared no cultural connections. They possessed no common mythology to draw from. They independently described the exact same physical objects in the sky. Your brain struggles to process unknown geometric shapes. When an ancient farmer saw a metallic cylinder, he searched his memory for a comparison. He knew about logs. He knew about spears. He recorded the object as a flying log. A Roman soldier knew about bronze shields. He recorded the object as a flying shield. Today, you know about advanced aerodynamics and space travel. You record the object as a flying saucer. The object itself never changes. The human vocabulary changes entirely. The physical data remains constant throughout the centuries. Dr. Richard Haynes is a former NASA research scientist. He analyzed pilot encounters with unidentified phenomena. Haynes noted that modern pilots describe identical flight characteristics to the ancient historical accounts. The objects hover silently. They accelerate instantly. They ignore completely known aerodynamic limits. A Roman soldier in 76 AD and a commercial pilot in 2024 describe the exact same physics. How is that possible?
The ancient texts point to specific geographical locations. Researchers occasionally investigate these exact historical sites. They find anomalies in the soil composition. In 1996, scientists tested the soil at a purported historical landing site in France. They found a high concentration of rare isotopes in the dirt. The plants in the immediate area exhibited strange cellular mutations. The data suggested severe exposure to intense microwave radiation. The event occurred centuries before microwaves were invented by humans. The historical records provided the exact coordinates for the researchers. The physical evidence matched the ancient texts perfectly. The scribes were acting as journalists. They were recording pure physical reality.
The Vimanas of ancient India offer another massive layer of data. The Sanskrit text Vaimanika Shastra contains incredibly detailed descriptions of flying machines. The text lists the specific types of metals required for construction. It details the mechanical propulsion systems. It describes the protective flight suits worn by the pilots. The authors included step-by-step instructions for evading enemy radar systems. They used highly specific terminology for electrical wiring and power generation. Scholars date the original source material to roughly 400 BC. The technical precision defies easy categorization by modern historians. The authors were documenting advanced mechanical engineering. They were describing physical machines built specifically for war. The descriptions align perfectly with modern aerospace design concepts. In 1803, Japanese fishermen encountered a strange vessel on the coast of Hitachi province. They called the mysterious ship the Utsuro Bune. The fishermen documented the event in 3 completely separate historical texts. They drew highly detailed diagrams of the ship. The vessel was round and covered in heavy glass windows. It was constructed of metal and a strange resin-like wood material. The fishermen noted bizarre geometric symbols engraved on the interior metal walls. A pale woman emerged from the hatch of the ship. She spoke an entirely unknown language. She clutched a small square box tightly to her chest. The fisherman returned her to the ship and pushed it back out to the ocean. The historical illustrations show an object identical to modern UFO reports. The interior symbols resemble those described by military witnesses in 20th century encounters. The fishermen had absolutely no contact with Western media. They recorded a purely localized physical event. Another striking account comes from the year 1235 in Japan. General Yoritsune was camping with his army. The soldiers observed mysterious lights dancing in the night sky. The lights moved in loops and circles for hours. The general ordered his scientific advisors to investigate the anomaly. The advisors concluded that the wind was simply blowing the stars around. The soldiers documented the strange lights anyway. They recorded the date and the exact duration of the aerial display. They treated the event as a physical occurrence, requiring a logical explanation. The scientists gave a terrible explanation. The raw data survived the centuries anyway. In 1639, John Winthrop recorded a massive anomaly in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Winthrop was the governor. He kept a strict factual diary of the colony's progress. 3 men were rowing a boat down the muddy river. They saw a great light in the sky. The light darted back and forth rapidly. It flared up and shrank down in size repeatedly. The men sat frozen in the boat for hours. When the light finally vanished, the men realized their boat had moved 1 mile upstream. They had no memory of rowing against the current. Winthrop recorded this event as a factual encounter with an unknown physical force. He trusted the men completely. He viewed their testimony as solid evidence. In August 1566, the citizens of Basel witnessed a similar mass event. Samuel Coccius wrote the official report. He was a student of the Holy Scriptures. He described large black spheres appearing in the sky at sunrise. The spheres flew at incredible speeds towards the sun. They turned completely red. They seemed to consume each other in a fierce battle. Coccius published his report as a broadsheet in the local town square. He included a detailed woodcut illustration of the black spheres. The entire town saw the battle. The local authorities accepted the report as undeniable historical fact. The spheres behaved exactly like modern drones. They executed sharp turns without losing momentum. They hovered motionless before accelerating instantly. In April 1897, a slow-moving metallic airship crashed into a windmill in Aurora. The local newspaper reported the incident immediately. The residents found the wreckage scattered across the property. They found the pilot dead in the debris. The town authorities noted that the pilot was not an inhabitant of this world. They buried the pilot in the local cemetery.
T.J. Weems was the local United States Signal Service officer. He examined the wreckage personally. He concluded that the ship was built of an unknown metal. The townspeople did not invent a mystical explanation. They treated the crash as a simple mechanical failure. They recorded the physical details of the unknown metal.
In the year 1211, Gervase of Tilbury recorded an event in Gravesend. The townspeople were attending Sunday Mass. An anchor suddenly descended from the sky. It caught on the tombstones in the churchyard. The people rushed outside. They saw a ship floating in the clouds above them. A crewman slid down the rope to free the anchor. The townspeople grabbed the crewman. The man struggled to breathe in the thick surface atmosphere. He quickly suffocated. The crew above cut the rope. The ship sailed away into the upper clouds. The local church kept the iron anchor as a physical artifact. The townspeople forged it into iron fittings for the church doors. They treated the flying ship as a tangible physical vessel. Your ancestors were incredibly observant. They depended on the sky for navigation. They depended on the stars for agriculture. They knew exactly how a comet moved. They knew exactly how a meteor behaved. When they saw something metallic hovering silently, they knew it was an anomaly. They documented the dimensions. They documented the colors. They documented the exact movements. They left behind a massive database of raw physical evidence. The evidence stretches across continents and spans multiple millennia. The Egyptians saw the discs. The Romans saw the shields. The Germans saw the cylinders. The Indians saw the vimanas. The Japanese saw the utsurobune. They all saw the exact same things. They all used their local vocabulary to describe advanced non-human technology. They documented the events with the seriousness of an official military report. Jacques Vallée argues that this phenomenon is a permanent fixture of the human environment. It has always been here. It interacts constantly with human consciousness. It leaves physical traces in the dirt. You live in an era of high-definition cameras. You expect clear photographic evidence for everything. Your ancestors lacked cameras entirely. They substituted cameras with meticulous, systematic observation. They wrote down the exact physical dimensions. They recorded the precise aerial flight paths. They treated the phenomenon as a completely tangible reality. The historical data proves that the phenomenon predates human flight by thousands of years. The objects were flying over our cities before we even invented the wheel. The next time you stand alone under a clear night sky, you might pull out your camera. You will wait for a bright silver disc to silently appear. Do you ever wonder if they are watching you?